All right, guys, welcome back to the MLB Innings channel. I'm your host, JayFish, and we're joined by Gallen of the Arizona Diamondbacks. How are we doing today, Zach?
Good. How about you? Thanks for having me.
Let's say doing pretty good. Glad you could join. And how's the off season been treating you so far?
It's been pretty good so far. Trying to mesh that time of little longer season, so a little bit of that downtime, but also not losing too much time with the spring training right around the corner.
Let's say it's been a couple of weeks since the World Series ended. Have Has that faded yet, or is your mind still there? Like, how long has it taken to process that, or are you still processing it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a gradual thing. I think I processed it um, pretty quickly in the sense of maybe 2 weeks. I was over most of it, but I kind of I'm not gonna really forget it. I mean, ultimately it's a failure. We didn't win the final game of the year. So yeah, I mean it's gonna be a motivator for sure.
And so, going off the postseason, what was the most memorable moment from the wild card all the way to the World Series? Like, what was the game or moment that was most memorable to you?
Yeah, I mean I think probably there's a handful honestly. Taking down the Dodgers is definitely a big one for us. That's a tough hump for us to kind of get over. I'm not sure the last time as an organization we've beaten the Dodgers in the playoffs. Won a series, and even during the year, felt like we played them pretty tough early in the year, but in those down the stretch, end of August, kind of those games when it was really starting to matter for us. We didn't play very well, so I think that's a huge one, just as an organization, just as somebody in your division, but. I think a lot of guys will say that maybe the sweetest part was going into Philly down 2 games and being able to win the series there on the road. And me being from Philly or South Jersey, I should say, and very close to Philadelphia, I know how tough the Citizens Bank can be to play in, especially as an opposing player. So our guys showed a lot of just kind of gall, just being able to go in there and a lot of fortitude.
I would say Game 7 on the road in Philly, you guys win. What was that atmosphere like? And, like, how did you guys feel going in that game and then after you guys won?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a hostile environment, that's for sure. Those fans, they get pretty rowdy. There's no secret about that. But I think for us, us being down 2-0 and then down 3-2, just for us, it was like, let's just get the game seven. If we can get the game seven, anything can happen. And I think after, we went in there and won game six. I want to say any team that's at home and they lose game six with a chance to put the series away is going to feel like they're on their heels. And the pressure was what we felt was on them. It's a lot more worse to lose game seven at home than, being the road team and losing and coming to a spot where nobody's expecting you to win except for yourselves.
One guy that comes to mind in the postseason is Adolis Garcia. When you faced him, what was your approach to that at bat when you were facing him? Because he obviously
Yeah,
had crazy
I've known
postseason.
Dolly. We played together with the Cardinals, Adolis and I remember, he's been an unbelievable player, even back in Double A, and he was actually the guy. Quick side story: he was actually the guy. The first time I got called up to Triple A, me and him we were in the car together and we were going at the same time. And deservedly so for him. He was playing unbelievable. But yeah, we knew he was hot. We knew he was feeling good after that Houston series. So we were just trying to make sure he didn't really beat us. Ultimately he did in that one spot. But I think that's what happens when you got a guy like, Corey Seager hitting in front of you. It's like, who would you rather pitch to, Corey Seager or Adolis Garcia? But yeah, I mean, you tried to attack him as best you could, but at the same time not give him anything that he could really do crazy damage on.
And then you were a Cardinals fan. You ended up getting drafted by the Cardinals. What was that like? Your favorite team growing up? You getting drafted by them?
Yeah, it was cool honestly because it was the draft day was a little disappointing for me because I had heard that I was slotted anywhere from the back end of the first round to the second round. So day one, they were doing the draft on TV and things like that. So kind of had a little draft party at my aunt's house, my aunt and uncle's house. So I just had some friends and family there, and I learned after the fact I got a call from the Orioles around like pick 66 or something like that, and I didn't know about it. My agent was in contact with my mom because I think she just wanted me to kind of enjoy the day and spend some time with people and not be too bogged down with it. And ultimately, the guy that they really liked was still on the board, so they took him. So, the day ends and I was kind of like, oh man, that sucks. Like, whatever. And then we had some people that slept over or came back around lunchtime when the draft started again. And we got no notice. Like, I'd say 95% of guys, the scout calls them or the team calls them, says, hey, we're going to take you here. And we're just sitting there in the living room, kind of scattered about. And on the TV, on the computer, we hear the Cardinals select Zach Gallen, and it was like this organic reaction that everyone was kind of like, they were just happy I got drafted, and then it was like, wait, it's the Cardinals, like, and so yeah, it was really cool. It was very organic. It was obviously having the disappointment the day before, not going the way I wanted to, but the way the experience happened, I wouldn't trade that for the world.
So you got drafted by them, and then you got traded to the Marlins. What was that like for you? Because you were with your favorite team and you got traded. Was there any sort of like emotion with that, or was it just like, it's a business thing?
For sure. I was at that point, I had cut ties in terms of the emotional standpoint of the fandom as a kid. I had understood it was a business. I already had my first taste of it from draft day. It was like, hey, things aren't going to always go the way you expect them to, or the way someone tells you that they're going to go. So yeah, I was actually down at like kind of a weightlifting camp for them for like 2 days, and I remember seeing on the TV, I think the MLB Network or ESPN or whatever, that the Cardinals and the Marlins had agreed to a trade, and the only person that was in the trade was Sandy. And we were like, oh man, that sucks. Like Sandy's gonna go. And it was just like there's three players that are on names so far. And I'm like, man, that'd suck to be one of those guys. And like just thought I was totally safe and good to go. And I had a connecting flight in Charlotte on my way home from Palm Beach. And hadn't turned my phone on airplane mode, and just as we were landing, I started like my phone was vibrating. I was getting a call from one of the guys from my agency, and I was like, "Oh, that can't be good." I'm like, "That's just a weird time." So I let it go to voicemail, heard it, listened to the voicemail, and then started checking the text, and it was like, "Hey, it'll be all right, but whatever." And I went on Twitter, and then realized what had happened, and I was like, "Oh man!" Like, but I honestly wasn't that bummed. Really, it was more of the shock value of just like they didn't let me know. It was just you got to, hey, somebody else wanted you. You got to pick up your stuff and figure it out. So yeah, it was a little bit of an adjustment for sure.
So you made your debut in June of 2019, and then I think a month later you get traded to the Diamondbacks, and you had already been traded at that point. But was there any difference in terms of how this trade went down, or any emotions there, or anything like that as well?
Yeah, honestly, similar in the sense of like I didn't see it coming at all. Ironically, I was talking to Carson Kelly, who I roomed with a little bit. He was in Arizona at the time, and I roomed with him when we were in Memphis together. And I was like, "Hey, how's it going over here? Do you like it?" And all this stuff. And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "It's great. My fiance, I think fiance at the time, he was like, my fiance and I, we bought one house. We're gonna stay spring training in the season. It's great for logistics." I'm like, "Oh, good." He's like, "Hopefully we can get you over here." And I'm like, "Yeah, we'll see what happens." So I threw. I think the next night I missed them. There was a series, and then I pitched the day before the trade deadline, maybe against the Twins. And I know that the pitching coach Mel Stoudemire like there was a little bit of a routine that after you'd start, he'd have you come in and kind of go over your starts and sequences you did well and things like that. So I got there early to kind of do my day one, recovery and all that type of stuff. And I'm sitting in my locker, and he's like, "Hey, come in, come with me." I'm like, "All right, I guess we're gonna do it now. It's fine by me." So we go into Don Mattingly's office, and I'm like, "All right, this is odd. Like the manager's in on the pitching meeting. I just all right, whatever." So Donnie's like starts. He's like, "We want to thank you and all this stuff." And I'm like, "Oh shit!" I'm like, "They're sending me down." I'm like, "I just shoved last night, and they're gonna send me down." I was like, so the first like 2 minutes of the conversation, I tuned out. Like I blacked out. I was like, oh, man, like I guess numbers, like Pablo's coming back, and like trying to do the math in my head. And then he's like, "Hey, all right, Michael," talking to Michael Hill, who's our GM. He's like, "All right, you carry." He's like, "We want to thank you. Like, we just long story short, was just basically we made a move." I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "We traded you." Sitting there having the rest of the conversation, like I didn't know where I was going. So at the end, I was like, "So where am I going?" Like, "Oh, we trade you to Arizona. Like, their guy will be in contact, like to get everything going." And that's kind of a weird spot because it's like, "Hey, you're not really our property anymore." Like you got to go over, like they're gonna handle it. So I'm like, well, what, like nothing. So it was kind of a didn't see it coming. And when you get traded, it's a weird feeling because you're like, all right, well, especially when you got traded twice before you turn 24, it's like, all right, you wanted me before, but now you don't want me now, but somebody else wants me. Like you're in this weird like limbo kind of spot where you're not sure. And I wasn't sure if I was going to go to the big leagues. Like I'm like, I just got to the big leagues. How's Arizona's pitching? Like, am I going to go back to AAA? And so there's just kind of a lot of things you're not really sure of, which can be unsettling. But I was excited.
All right, so let's move back on to this season. You ended up being an all-star for the first time, I believe, and then you were starting on the mound, and I was actually there watching you. What was that all-star game like?
Yeah, it was crazy. First All-Star game, in the big leagues that I was a part of. And yeah, it was pretty gratifying because I felt like the year before I was having an All-Star year in 22 and just didn't have the greatest starts leading into the All-Star break, kind of when it was getting down to crunch time. And the coaches, whoever votes on the managers, whatever votes on guys on the team. So I was kind of disappointed because I felt like still could have been there, but at the same time, like I can evaluate and be like, no, I probably didn't deserve to be there. So this year to get my first one, and then to have the honor to start it, was awesome. It was, honestly, as much as it was an honor, it was great that I could kind of stay in my routine and treat it as a game started. So like I went through my routine as best I could. Obviously I don't there's not a red carpet before the game every time I pitch here in Arizona. So like that was a little different, but like going through my routine with like stretching and all that type of stuff and knowing when I was going to pitch, not, having to wait for the, phone to ring down there and whatnot was awesome. And I had handful of family and friends come out and they experienced the weekend and my girlfriend was there. So it was just, yeah, it was awesome to kind of, I have a lot of reverence for the guys that, and respect for the other guys in the league, my peers, the guys I compete against. So to kind of be in the same room as them, same locker room, just on the same field and just kind of get that respect that is, means a lot to me.
So, first All-Star appearance, I believe you got all MLB first team as well. What is next on your radar award-wise? And then obviously, I'm assuming a World Series down the road as well with getting there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ultimately World Series. I had said, before the year, this past year, after we did make the playoffs in 22, I was like, I want to turn Phoenix into a winner. And just kind of seeing the way that the town and the city and the community just supported us throughout the playoff run, it just kind of further enhanced that for me. It was like, okay, we haven't had really good teams here recently, so I can understand why the fans, aren't showing up to the games. But like now we created some excitement, and when there was some excitement, like the fans really showed out and had some, they were awesome. So it just kind of reinforced like, all right, I really want to turn Phoenix into a winner. I want it to be. I know it's a spot that a lot of guys would love to play. Big time free agents, just like, hey, I live in Arizona. Like it would be awesome to live. So like just to make it kind of hopefully a free agent destination where guys want to come here and be a part of the culture and be a part of, hopefully the success, is big to me. And then obviously, on the personal level, like I feel like I'm knocking on the door of the Cy Young and I, would just kind of, as much as like personal accolades don't really motivate me that much, like it would definitely kind of just be like, okay, you put in the work, you earned it. Like it's a season long award, which I learned firsthand this year. Like I was the favorite for probably, I don't know, 2/3 of the season, and then just kind of down the stretch didn't, pitch that great and wound up not coming home with the award. So yeah, it's definitely an award that I have a lot of respect for sure.
So obviously, you guys got more confidence, got more experience. Expectations are going to go up. And then you also mentioned super teams, and in your own division, the Dodgers just signed Otani to a 10-year, $700 million deal. Giants looking at free agency. We'll see what they add. What are your thoughts going into this season, knowing that the competition's getting stronger as well?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's kind of I don't it's not a shock to me. I don't think it's a shock to anybody in our clubhouse and our organization that the Dodgers or the Giants or any of those teams we're going to look to add. We've kind of seen that the last was 2 3 years. With the Dodgers going out to get Mookie Betts and the Padres adding the guys they added, and then the Giants have been in on pretty much every big free agent there's been since 2019. So yeah, I think we're not phased by it anymore. Like we just expect, okay, like they're gonna try and bolster their lineup just like we are. And I'm hoping that one, it was we had some success this year, so we're able to put some money back into the team. But like us adding free agency, I think I'm thinking it's been motivated a little bit by that. Is like, all right, those teams are getting better too. Like we can't be stagnant. Let's re-sign Lourdes. Let's go out and get Eduardo Rodriguez and Suarez and guys like that. So I think it's great. But yeah, I mean, going into the offseason, I just had a feeling that Otani wasn't leaving he wasn't getting out of our division, whether it was he was going to LA or he was going to the Giants. Like I didn't really see him going anywhere else. Just kind of the feeling in my stomach I had. So yeah, I mean it's gonna be a good test. That Dodgers lineup is a good test already. So, adding Shohei in there is gonna make it even more tougher.
All right, so I told you earlier before we started this that I was going to do some rapid fire questions. We got carried away a little bit, but I'm going to ask you 5 quick questions, and just the first thing that comes off the top of your head. Is
All
that
right,
is
let me
that
let
good?
me let me get a drink of water first.
All right, I'll do that too.
This way I'm ready. Ready to go.
All right, so first one is, what is your dream car?
My dream car. All right. I know you only want one answer, but I'll give you two. There's a little like backstory or whatever. So probably my dream car right now is a Porsche 911. But I told my girlfriend that if we won the World Series with the playoff share, I was buying a Rolls Royce because in 18, my first big league Cameron Maben had won the World Series the year before with the Astros and had an all white Rolls Royce Wraith. That's a tongue twister. And I was like, "Hey, nice car." He's like, "Yes, what happens when you win the World Series?" And I was like, "Oh, that's sick." So when we were like, I'm like, "We win the World Series, I'm buying a Rolls Royce." And she's like, "All right, whatever." But so yeah, probably more conservatively as probably a Porsche 911. I just think they're cool.
So are you driving your dream car, or what are you driving?
I yeah, so I was looking at one, but we are in the process of putting a bar in our house. We had like kind of two rooms that were being unused, so we knocked the wall down. So most of the Porsche fund is going towards building the bar, which it'd be I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, who knows?
All right, so next one is, if you could bring 3 things with you in a post-apocalyptic situation, what would you bring? And you can take a little more time on this one.
All right, three things in a post-apocalyptic situation. This is probably so lame. I'll bring my phone, my chart, like a phone charger, like I need to charge it, and then my girlfriend.
Interesting.
Other,
I think you're the first guy I've interviewed that has not, like, done a weapon of any sort. Like, everyone's done
uh,
some sort of weapon. I'll
damn, that's a
count the
good
phone
one.
charger and phone as one. I'll count that
All
as
right,
one item.
I was gonna say because bringing a phone then it dies. So I got the landscape filter here. Down.
It's all good.
Oh man. All right, I'm gonna need a weapon then. So I'm not a big gun guy, so some sort of rifle though, like something I could shoot from long range. Like yeah, probably some sort of rifle with like a scope or something on it. Back to my Call of Duty days.
Okay, so actually, I'll just skip to this question real quick since you brought up Call of Duty. Are you a console or PC guy?
I am neither, but was a console guy. Yeah, I'm not a gamer by anymore. As a kid, I was. My brother and I would play like Madden, the show, all those like as a kid, and then in high school, I got into like playing Call of Duty. But once I got to college, I really stopped playing a lot of games. Really, like we'd play Madden and stuff like that in our dorm, and we'd play 2K. My roommates John and Rice, we'd play a lot of 2K. But like once, like really pro ball, like I wasn't really lugging a console around with me, and I just kind of fell out of playing games. But we got a bunch of gamers on our team, and a lot of guys play PGA Tour, and I'm like, oh, maybe I get like a PC that I could kind of carry around and play PGA Tour with when we're on the road. So I'm toying with the idea, um, and I do know that when Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out, I will definitely get something. But right now, the Fortnite, Call of Duty, like all that, it hasn't really, piqued my interest.
And then next question is if you could eat only one meal the rest of your life, what would it be?
One meal, like one specific meal or one like type of meal, like steak or like specifically.
Whatever you want.
All right,
Whatever
I'm a
first comes to
huge
mind, it doesn't have to be specific.
yeah, I'm a huge pasta person. Um, oh, man, that's tough. Actually, that's tough because I could eat pasta, but my grandmother makes this like chicken soup with like little like it's like the pasta in it's like little balls. It's called like pastina, and
Mhm.
that is like she only was making it around holidays, but now I think she's like making it a little bit not as much, but like she knows I'm coming home, she'll make it because I don't get to have it as as much. So I'm gonna go with that. My grandmother's soup, pasta, everything. I think that's that hits home. That's the one.
And then this question you I guess answered earlier, but I'll ask it anyways. If you weren't a professional baseball player, what would you be doing? And I know you said you always were like, "Hey, it's baseball," but if you needed a backup plan, have you thought about that at all, like one bit?
Um, it would probably be something in baseball, like as lame and unoriginal as that would sound. Like I think it would honestly it would have depended on when baseball ended for me. Like if baseball would have ended like at an early age, probably would have done something a little differently. But yeah, probably if college, I would maybe become a coach. But coaching's not my favorite. Like I've noticed that, like just kind of being around our coaches, like in the grind they have to go through. Um, it's a tough grind. So I would probably do something in terms of like the agent side, like advocating for players and making sure players, have, are getting, what they're worth and what they're due would probably be, where I'd head to.
So when your career is done, is that what you would go do, or what would you do when your career is done? Just chill out, golf every
Yeah,
day?
I would probably hopefully I play long enough and make enough money that I can, my family support it and my kids' kids are support it, and I could play a whole lot of golf. That would be and then maybe be, I don't know, stay-at-home dad or something along those lines, just chill. Because we're not home a lot, so I'm a homebody, that's for sure, and so just kind of being at home. I'm sure that I would get bored very easily. So try to figure out what that venture would be. But yeah, I'm seeing a whole lot of golf right now. That would be my endeavor.
And then one last question before we wrap this up. I see you're not wearing the glasses, but you wear the glasses on the mound. So how does that work?
Yeah. So the glasses, I don't need them like everyday life. And honestly, I probably don't even need them now to pitch because we got the pitch com. But what happened was I started to realize like in class, like I was having trouble seeing the board a little bit. I'm like, it's kind of weird, whatever. Like maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm just tired. I got like, whatever, can't see in class. So I go and start. I forget if it's my freshman year. Actually, I think it was my sophomore year. I went to the Cape League, and the lights up there are not very good at all. It's like they're like Babe Ruth fields, like not a lot of money put in the field, so the lights are kind of whatever. And I started having trouble seeing the signs, and I'm like, all right. So I started telling the catcher, like, hey, like I can't see the fingers. Like even when you start painting them and doing whatever, like I'm struggling seeing it. So we had to go to different kind of touch system or whatever. And I come back from the Cape that year and go to our trainer at UNC, and I'm like, hey, I'm having trouble seeing the signs. Like I don't know, like it's the lights or whatever. And she's like, all right, let's go to the eye doctor and see. So we went to the eye doctor. And they checked it and they were like, your prescription's not that bad. Like you're fine. Like you don't really need them. They're like, you have astigmatism now. So like we recommend you wear them when you're driving at night or you're trying to, sit in the back of class or whatever it is. So like, but everyday life, you're good. You can see. And then started using them for pitching and just kind of took off from there. And it's like, I don't need them during daytime, which is kind of wild, but like I just wear them because I'm used to. And then, yeah, like I said, now with the pitch com, it's like, I don't really need to see the signs anymore. It's just kind of it's in my ear and I can hear it. So, but it's just become a part of me. So I don't know that I can really ditch them. It's almost like they've just become a part of my face now. But yeah, when it kind of works out when I'm in public. Is that like nobody really recognizes me because I'm glad. Like now after the World Series, it's a little bit different. But like I was like, it's like reverse Clark Kent. Like Superman would wear the glasses and everything, and then I'm like the opposite, like nothing. So like people were like, we think that's him, and like I just got a haircut the other day, so like people were like, we're not really sure, but like when I had longer hair, like yeah. And if I would wear glasses around, it would be like people would be like, you're, and I'm like, so it kind of works out that I don't wear the glasses.
All right, well, Zach, that's gonna do it for our time. I appreciate you joining us. I hope you have a great rest of your off season, and I wish you best of luck next year.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I can't believe you wore a Dodger shirt too during that. I can't believe that. That's unbelievable.
Uh, I'm gonna say, well, I'm Cincy based, and I like the Dodgers though because of my dad. And that's how I like the Dodgers and Seahawks. My dad, he liked the blue.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. I'll give it to you.
I'm still gonna be rooting for you. I'm still gonna be rooting for you next year, even being a Dodgers fan.
All right, I respect that. I appreciate that. Then you're good in my book.
All right, I'll see you later.
All right, see you. Thanks.